Hello, everyone. If you enjoy my channel, please support me with one like, one subscribe, and one share.
The desert breakdown, when everything stopped in the middle of nowhere. Imagine this. You are driving through the Arizona desert. The sun is so bright it hurts your eyes, even through sunglasses. The road is straight and empty, stretching ahead like a ribbon of heat. There is no cell service, no gas stations, no houses, just red rocks, dry dust, and the endless blue sky. You are alone. And then your car makes a sound. Not a normal sound. A sound that makes your stomach drop. A sound that says, I am about to stop working. You press the gas pedal. Nothing happens. The engine sputters, coughs, and dies. The car rolls to a stop on the shoulder of the road. You are stuck. In the middle of nowhere. In a country that is not your own. With no one to call and no idea what to do. That was me. That was my Tuesday. And I was absolutely terrified. Let me back up a little. I had been living in the United States for a few years by then. My English was okay. I could hold conversations, go to the grocery store, and survive most everyday situations. But I had never broken down on the side of a desert road. I had never been truly stranded. I had never been so completely, utterly alone. That day, I was driving from Los Angeles to Phoenix. A long drive. A boring drive. I had done it before, but always with someone else. Mark was usually with me, or a friend, or at least someone who could change a tire or call for help. But this time I was alone. And I had made a terrible mistake. I had ignored the fuel light. I had thought, I'll make it to the next gas station. But the next gas station never came. And now, I was sitting in a dead car, in the middle of the desert, with the temperature outside climbing past 100 degrees. My phone showed no signal. 0 bars. Nothing. I was completely cut off from the world. I sat there for a few minutes, staring at the dashboard, hoping that somehow the engine would start again. It didn't. I got out of the car. The heat hit me like a wall. I looked around. Nothing but desert. Red rocks. Dry bushes. And the highway stretching in both directions, empty and silent. I had never felt so small, so vulnerable, so afraid. And then the fear started to spiral. I had heard stories. Stories about people who broke down in the desert and never made it out. Stories about strangers who stopped to help and then did terrible things. Stories about women who were alone and disappeared. My mind was racing. Every single worry I had ever had about being an immigrant, a woman, a foreigner in this country, they all came rushing back. What if no one stops? What if someone stops and they are dangerous? What if I am stuck here forever? I got back in the car. I locked the doors. I rolled up the windows. I tried to stay calm, but my heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I looked at the clock. 2:47 p.m. I had been sitting there for 15 minutes. It felt like hours. Then, in the distance, I saw something. A small dot on the horizon. A car. It was coming toward me. My heart started pounding even harder. Who was it? Would they stop? Did I want them to stop? The car got closer. It was an old pickup truck. Beat up. Rusty. The kind of truck that had seen better decades. It slowed down as it approached. It pulled over behind my car. I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. Should I get out? Should I stay in the car? Should I pretend I was fine and wave them away? The door of the truck opened. A man got out. He was tall. He was wearing a cowboy hat, a faded plaid shirt, and worn-out jeans. He had a beard, weathered skin, and a slow, easy way of walking that seemed calm and deliberate. He looked like he had stepped right out of a Western movie. He walked toward my car. I could see his face more clearly now. He was older, maybe in his 60s. His eyes were kind, but I didn't trust kind eyes. Kind eyes could be deceiving. He stopped a few feet away from my car. He didn't come too close. He didn't try to open my door. He just stood there, waited, and then said something that I still remember to this day. "You look like you could use some help, ma'am." His voice was slow and warm, southern, gentle, but I was still scared. I cracked the window open, just an inch. "I'm fine," I said. "I've already called for help." It was a lie. My phone had no signal, but I didn't want him to know that. He smiled. Not a creepy smile. A patient smile. The kind of smile that says, "I've been around long enough to know when someone is lying, and that's okay." "Ma'am," he said, "there's no cell service out here for another 20 miles. I know because I live 10 miles down that road." He pointed to a dirt road I hadn't even noticed. "I saw your car from my porch. Thought I'd come check on you." His porch? He lived out here? In the middle of nowhere? I didn't know what to think. I wanted to trust him. I really did. But I had been told so many times to be careful. To not trust strangers. To lock my doors and stay safe. And here I was, locked in my car, talking to a cowboy who had appeared out of the desert like a ghost. "What's wrong with your car?" he asked. "I don't know," I said. "It just stopped." "Mind if I take a look?" he asked. "Under the hood?" I hesitated. I didn't want to get out of the car. I didn't want to be vulnerable, but I also didn't have any other options. I was stuck. It was hot. I was scared. And this man, this cowboy, seemed like my only chance. So I took a deep breath. I unlocked the door, and I got out of the car. He smiled again. "Don't worry, ma'am," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to fix your car." And with that, he walked to the front of my car, lifted the hood, and started looking at the engine. I stood there, watching him, my heart still pounding, my mind still racing. And I thought, what is happening right now? Who is this man? And why is he helping me? Those questions would be answered in the hours to come. But right now, all I had was fear, hope, and a cowboy who had appeared out of nowhere. That is where this story begins. And I promise you, it gets even stranger from here. A stranger appears, the cowboy who changed everything. Let me describe this man to you again. Not because I want to romanticize him, but because I want you to see what I saw. He was tall, maybe 6 feet, with broad shoulders that suggested years of physical work. His cowboy hat was dusty and faded, the kind of hat that had been through hundreds of sunrises and thunderstorms. His face was weathered, lines etched deep by sun and wind, but his eyes were bright and clear. Blue. Like the desert sky above us. He wore a faded plaid shirt with his sleeves rolled up, revealing tanned forearms covered in faint scars. His jeans were worn and patched, his boots scuffed and dusty. He looked like he belonged to a different era. A time when men fixed things with their hands and didn't ask for anything in return. When he smiled, his whole face crinkled. And his voice, that slow, warm southern drawl, was so calm it almost made me forget I was terrified. Almost. "Now, ma'am," he said, "let me take a look under here and see what's going on." He leaned over the engine. He poked at a few things. He listened. Then he stood up straight and said, "It's not too bad. Probably just a fuel filter issue. Got clogged up. Happens all the time out here." He said it like it was nothing. Like being stuck in the desert with a broken car was just another Tuesday. "I can fix it," he said. "But I'll need to go back to my place and get some tools. You can wait here if you want. Or you can come with me." Come with him? To his place? In the middle of nowhere? My heart started pounding again. Every alarm bell in my head was ringing. Don't go with strangers. Don't get in their cars. Don't trust anyone you don't know. I had heard those warnings my whole life. My mother had drilled them into me. My husband had reminded me before I left. Be careful out there, he had said. Don't stop for anyone. And now here I was, standing in the desert, being asked by a stranger to go to his house. I froze. I didn't know what to do. My brain was screaming, no, but my situation was screaming, yes, because I had no other options. The heat was getting worse. My water bottle was almost empty. My phone was still dead. And this man, this cowboy, seemed like my only chance. He must have seen the fear in my eyes because he did something that surprised me. He stepped back. He raised his hands, palms out, like he was surrendering. Ma'am, he said, I understand if you're nervous.
You don't know me.
You don't know if you can trust me. That's smart. That's good.
But I want you to know something. He paused.
He looked me straight in the eyes. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to fix your car. And then I'm going to send you on your way. That's all. I don't want anything from you. Not your money. Not your phone number. Not your story. I'm just someone who helps people who are stuck. That's who I am. He said it so simply. So honestly. And for some reason I believed him. Maybe it was the way he said it. Maybe it was the way he stood there, patient and calm, not rushing me, not pressuring me. Maybe it was the way his eyes didn't dart around or look away. Or maybe I was just so desperate that I had no choice. Whatever it was, I made a decision. I took a breath. And I said, okay, I'll come with you. He nodded. He didn't smile or act smug. He just nodded like it was the most natural thing in the world. All right then, he said. Let me grab my truck and we'll go. He walked back to his pickup, climbed in and turned the engine on. The old truck coughed and rumbled to life. He pulled it up next to my car and leaned out the window. Hop in, he said. It's not far. I got in. The truck smelled like dust, leather, and coffee. The seats were cracked and worn. There was a rifle in the back window. Not a modern one. An old one. A hunting rifle. I noticed it, and my heart started pounding again. But I told myself to stay calm. He hadn't done anything threatening. He had been nothing but kind. And I needed to trust that kindness. The truck rumbled down the dirt road. The desert stretched out on both sides, red and dry and endless. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then he spoke. So, he said, what brings you out here all alone? I hesitated. I didn't want to share too much. But I also didn't want to be rude. So I said, I'm driving to Phoenix. To visit my sister. Long drive, he said. Yeah, I said. It is. Next time, fill up before you hit the desert, he said. There's a gas station about 50 miles back, but nothing out here. You got lucky I saw you. Lucky, I repeated. He laughed. A warm, rumbling laugh. Yeah, lucky. That's what I'd call it. I didn't say anything. I just stared out the window at the passing desert. We pulled up to a small house. It was not much. A wooden cabin with a tin roof, a porch with 2 rocking chairs, and a few old trucks scattered around the yard. It looked like something out of a movie.
This is it, he said.
Home sweet home. I got out of the truck. I looked around. It was quiet, peaceful. And somehow, for the first time since my car broke down, I started to feel a little bit of calm. He walked to a shed behind the house, opened the door, and came out with a toolbox. Let's go fix that car, he said.
And that was it.
No drama.
No weirdness.
Just a cowboy and his toolbox, ready to help a stranger. As we drove back to my car, I watched him from the corner of my eye. He was quiet, focused. He seemed like a man who had lived a life of solitude and was perfectly comfortable with it. He didn't ask me any more questions. He didn't try to make conversation. He just drove, hummed a little tune, and took me back to my broken car. When we got there, he got out, opened the hood, and started working. I stood there, watching him, still a little nervous, still a little unsure, but feeling something new. Something I hadn't felt in a long time.
Hope.
Not hope that my car would be fixed. That was just practical. Hope that there was still goodness in the world. Hope that strangers could be kind. Hope that I, as an immigrant in this country, could be helped by someone who didn't know me, didn't owe me anything, and asked for nothing in return. That hope was fragile, but it was there. And in the next section, I'll tell you what happened when he finally finished the job. When he closed the hood, wiped his hands, and said the words that would stay with me forever. The cowboy's hands, how a stranger fixed more than my car. You know what I noticed first? His hands. The cowboy's hands. They were rough and calloused, the kind of hands that had spent decades gripping tools and steering wheels and holding onto things that mattered. His fingers were thick and stained with grease, but they moved with surprising gentleness. He handled the parts under my hood like they were delicate instruments. He knew exactly what he was doing.
No hesitation. No second guessing.
Just quiet confidence. And as I stood there watching him, I realized something. I had been so focused on my fear that I had forgotten to look for the good. I had been so busy worrying about all the things that could go wrong that I had missed the possibility that something could go right. He was fixing my car. For free. Without asking for anything. And he was doing it with the calm competence of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. You know, he said, not looking up from the engine, you don't have to stand out here in the heat. You can sit in my truck. It's got AC. I'm fine, I said. I'd rather watch. He chuckled. Suit yourself. He reached into the engine and pulled out a small part. It was covered in dirt and grime. See this? He said, holding it up. Your fuel filter. It's completely clogged. That's why your car stopped. The fuel couldn't get through. Is it easy to fix? I asked. Easy enough, he said. I've got a spare in my truck. Should take about 10 minutes. He walked back to his truck, rummaged around in the back, and came back with a new filter. He installed it in a few minutes, tightened a few things, and then wiped his hands on his jeans. All right, he said. Try starting it now. I got in my car. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. Smooth.
Perfect.
Like nothing had ever been wrong. I couldn't believe it. You fixed it, I said, getting out of the car. You actually fixed it.
Told you I would, he said, smiling.
Now you should be fine. Just don't forget to get gas at the next station. There's one about 30 miles east. I reached into my bag. I pulled out my wallet. How much do I owe you? I asked.
He looked at me.
Then he shook his head. Nothing, he said. Nothing. Nothing, he repeated. I don't take money for helping folks. Never have. Never will. I stared at him. I didn't understand. He had driven out into the desert, fixed my car, given me his time, his tools, and his expertise. And he wanted nothing in return? But I have to pay you, I said. You saved me. You don't understand. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. And you, he held up his hand to stop me. Ma'am, he said, I've been where you are. Not this exact place, but somewhere like it. A place where you feel alone and scared and like no one is coming to help. And someone helped me. A stranger. A person who didn't know me and didn't owe me anything. And the only thing they asked in return was that I pass it on. So that's what I'm doing. I'm passing it on. I felt tears forming in my eyes. Not sad tears. Not embarrassed tears. Tears of gratitude. Tears of relief. Tears because someone, a complete stranger, had shown me kindness without expecting anything in return. And in that moment I realized something. I had been wrong about America. I had been wrong about Americans. I had been wrong about strangers. I had spent so much time being afraid. afraid of the language, afraid of the culture, afraid of the people, afraid of not belonging, afraid of being judged, afraid of being taken advantage of, afraid of being hurt, and all that fear had made me blind. Blind to the kindness that was all around me, blind to the people who wanted to help, blind to the goodness that existed in the world. This cowboy, this stranger, this man I had been so afraid of, he had just taught me the most important lesson of my life. Not everyone is out to get you. Some people just want to help. And when you let them, when you trust them, you might just find that the world is a kinder place than you ever imagined. I stood there in the desert, my car running, my heart full, and I asked him a question. "What's your name?" I asked. "Bill," he said. "Just Bill." "Well, Bill," I said, "thank you. I don't know how to repay you." "You already did," he said.
How?
I asked. "By letting me help you," he said. "That's all I ever wanted." He tipped his hat, got back in his truck, and drove off. I stood there for a long time, watching his truck disappear into the dust. I didn't move. I didn't get back in my car. I just stood there crying because I had just experienced something I thought no longer existed. Unconditional kindness. A random act of generosity. A moment of human connection that transcended language, culture, and borders. That cowboy, Bill, had restored something in me that I had lost. Not just faith in strangers. Faith in myself. Faith that I could navigate this country. Faith that I was not alone. Faith that there was good in the world, even when I couldn't see it.
That day changed me.
Not because my car was fixed. Because my heart was fixed. Because I had been carrying so much fear for so long, and Bill had shown me that fear was not the only option. Trust was an option too. And I had just chosen it. I got back in my car. I started driving. The road stretched out ahead of me, empty and beautiful. The sun was starting to set, painting the desert in shades of orange and pink. And for the first time in years, I felt something I had almost forgotten. Hope. Not desperate hope. Not fragile hope. Solid hope. The kind of hope that comes from experience. The kind of hope that says, I have seen goodness with my own eyes. And I know it exists. That hope carried me all the way to Phoenix. That hope stayed with me for weeks. And that hope is still with me today. Because Bill taught me something I will never forget. The world is full of strangers who could become friends. Full of moments that could become miracles. Full of kindness that could become a legacy. And all it takes is the courage to trust. To let someone in. To believe that the good in people is stronger than the bad. In the next section, I'm going to tell you about the moment I finally understood why Bill helped me. Not because of pity. Not because of obligation. Because of something much deeper. Something that would change how I saw this country forever. First, mistrust. When fear almost kept me from a miracle. I need to be honest with you about something. When Bill showed up, I didn't trust him. Not even a little. I wanted to. Part of me wanted to believe that he was just a kind stranger who wanted to help. But another part of me, the loud part, the scared part, was convinced that this was the moment everything would go wrong. The moment I would become another cautionary tale. Another statistic. Another woman who trusted the wrong person and paid the price. I had heard the stories. We all have. The stories about strangers who seem nice at first, who offer to help, who seem kind and generous. And then they show their true colors. I had been told to be careful, to not trust anyone, to keep my doors locked and my eyes open. And now, here I was, standing in the middle of the desert, about to get into a stranger's truck. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to run, to refuse, to find another way. But there was no other way. The heat was getting worse. My phone was dead. My car was broken, and Bill was my only hope. So I got in the truck, but I didn't relax. I sat on the edge of the seat, my hand on the door handle, ready to jump out at any moment. I kept my bag close to my chest. I kept my eyes on him. I watched every move he made. He didn't seem to notice. Or if he did, he didn't care. He just drove, humming a tune, calm and relaxed, like he had done this 1,000 times before. "You're nervous," he said, not looking at me. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. "I'm fine," I said, my voice tighter than I wanted it to be. He chuckled. "No, you're not. And that's okay. You don't know me. You've got no reason to trust me." "I get it." He paused.
But I want you to know something.
"I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to rob you. I'm not going to do anything except help you fix your car and send you on your way. That's it. That's all." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But my fear was louder than his words. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. "I mean, you don't know me. You don't owe me anything. So, why are you doing this?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because someone helped me once. A stranger. A person who didn't know me and didn't owe me anything. And they asked for nothing in return. They just helped. And I promised myself that one day I would do the same for someone else." I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. His answer was so simple, so honest, and it made me feel small, because I had been so quick to judge him, so quick to assume the worst, so quick to let my fear decide who he was. And he had done nothing except try to help. "What happened to you?" I asked. "The person who helped you?" He sighed. "That's a story for another day," he said. "But I'll tell you this much. I was in a bad place. Lost my wife.
Lost my job.
Lost my way. I was driving through the desert just like you, and my car broke down. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any hope. I was ready to give up. And then this woman, an old woman, maybe 70 years old, stopped to help me. She fixed my car. She gave me some food. She gave me some water. And she told me something I never forgot." "What did she tell you?" I asked. "She said, 'Son, the world is full of people who want to take from you. But there are also people who want to give. Find them. Be one of them. And you will never be lost again.'" I felt a lump forming in my throat. "That's beautiful," I said. "Yeah," he said. "It was. And I've been trying to live up to her words ever since." We pulled up to his house. It was small and simple, but it was filled with the kind of warmth that comes from a life well lived. He got out of the truck, walked to his shed, and came back with a toolbox. "All right," he said. "Let's go fix that car." And just like that, he was back to business. No drama.
No sentiment.
Just a man with a toolbox and a job to do. We drove back to my car. He got out, opened the hood, and started working. I stood there, watching him, my fear slowly fading. And as I watched him, I realized something. I had been so afraid of strangers that I had almost missed the kindness that was right in front of me. I had been so focused on the dangers of this country that I had forgotten the goodness. The people who helped. The people who gave. The people who asked for nothing in return. The cowboy was one of them. And he was showing me that fear and trust could coexist. That I could be cautious and still be open. That I didn't have to choose between safety and connection. I could have both. By the time he finished fixing my car, my fear had almost completely disappeared. I was still cautious. I was still aware. But I was also grateful. Deeply, profoundly grateful. He had taught me something that no amount of studying or practicing English could ever teach. He had taught me that kindness is a universal language, and that sometimes the people you are most afraid of are the people who can heal you the most. I got in my car. I started the engine. It purred to life. And for a moment, I just sat there, letting the reality of what had just happened sink in. A stranger had helped me. A stranger had saved me. A stranger had restored my faith. Not in God. Not in country. In people. I rolled down the window. "Thank you, Bill," I said. "You're welcome, ma'am," he said. "Now go. Don't be a stranger." I smiled. I nodded. And I drove off. But I didn't drive far. Because I had one more question. One question I needed to ask. One question that would change everything. In the next section, I'll tell you what I asked him. And what he said in return. No payment needed when kindness had no price. The engine was running. The car was fixed. The sun was starting to set. And I was standing in the middle of the desert, holding my wallet, ready to pay a stranger for saving my life. "How much do I owe you?" I asked. Bill looked at me. He didn't say anything for a moment. He just looked at me with those calm blue eyes, and then he shook his head. "Nothing," he said. "Nothing." I repeated. "Nothing," he said again. "I don't take money for helping folks. Never have. Never will." I stared at him. I didn't understand. He had driven out into the desert. He had spent time fixing my car. He had used his tools, his expertise, his time. And he wanted nothing in return? "But I have to pay you," I said. "You saved me."
You don't understand.
I was so scared. I didn't know what to do. "And you," he held up his hand to stop me. "Ma'am," he said, "I've been where you are. Not this exact place, but somewhere like it. A place where you feel alone and scared and like no one is coming to help. And someone helped me. A stranger. A person who didn't know me and didn't owe me anything. And the only thing they asked in return was that I pass it on. So that's what I'm doing. I'm passing it on." I felt tears forming in my eyes. Not sad tears. Not embarrassed tears. Tears of gratitude. Tears of relief. Tears because someone, a complete stranger, had shown me kindness without expecting anything in return. "But I have to do something," I said. "I can't just—" "You can," he said. "You just did." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You let me help you," he said. "That's all I ever wanted. That's all anyone ever wants. To be useful. To make a difference. To know that their time on this earth meant something." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, holding my wallet, my tears falling silently onto the dusty ground. "Now," he said, "you should get going. It's getting dark. And you don't want to be driving through this desert at night without a full tank of gas." I nodded. I got back in my car. I started the engine. It purred to life. And for a moment, I just sat there, letting the reality of what had just happened sink in. A stranger had helped me. A stranger had saved me. A stranger had restored my faith. Not in God. Not in country. In people. I rolled down the window. "Thank you, Bill," I said. "You're welcome, ma'am," he said. "Now go. Don't be a stranger." I smiled. I nodded. And I drove off. But I didn't drive far. I drove about a mile down the road, and then I pulled over. I couldn't leave like that. I couldn't just drive away without knowing more. Without understanding. Without telling him what he had really done for me. Because he hadn't just fixed my car. He had fixed something much deeper. He had fixed my heart. My broken, scared, lonely heart that had been carrying so much fear for so long. I turned the car around. I drove back. Bill was still standing there, watching me go. He looked surprised when he saw my car coming back. "Did something go wrong?" he asked. "No," I said, getting out of the car. "Everything is fine. I need to tell you something." "What is it?" he asked. I took a deep breath. And then I told him the truth. I told him about my life in America, about how hard it had been, about how scared I had been, about how many times I had felt like I didn't belong, about how many times I had been treated like an outsider because of my accent, my skin, my name. I told him about the fear that had been my constant companion for years. The fear of not being good enough. The fear of being judged. The fear of being seen as less than. I told him that his kindness had undone something in me. Something that had been tightly wounded for too long. He listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just listened. And when I finished, he nodded. "I know," he said. "I know."
How?
I asked. "Because I've seen it," he said. "I've seen people come to this country full of hope and get beaten down by the fear. I've seen them close themselves off because they've been hurt. I've seen them forget that there is still good in the world."
He paused.
"But there is good, ma'am. There's good everywhere. You just have to be brave enough to see it." I started crying again. But this time I didn't try to stop. I let the tears come. "Thank you," I whispered. "You already thanked me," he said. "Now go. Go live your life. Go find the good. And when you do, pass it on." I nodded. I got back in my car. I drove off. And this time, I didn't look back. But I carried him with me. I carried his words. I carried his kindness. I carried the memory of a stranger who had reminded me that fear is not the only option. Trust is an option too. And sometimes when you choose trust, you find something you never expected. You find hope. That drive to Phoenix was different from any drive I had ever taken. The desert looked different. The sky looked different. I looked different. Because I was different. I was no longer the woman who had been broken down on the side of the road. I was the woman who had been saved by a stranger. And that made all the difference. In the next section, I'm going to tell you about the ride together. The unexpected journey that Bill and I shared. Because he didn't just fix my car. He fixed my heart. And that was just the beginning. The ride together. When trust took the wheel. I should have driven away. I had my car back. My engine was running. The sun was setting, and Bill had told me to go. Every logical part of my brain said, "Get in your car. Drive to Phoenix. Forget this ever happened." But I didn't. Instead, I turned my car around. I drove back to Bill's truck. I rolled down my window and called out to him. "Bill," I said, "I need to ask you something." He looked surprised to see me again. "What is it, ma'am? Can I buy you dinner?" I asked. "Or at least a cup of coffee. I can't just leave without doing something." He smiled. A slow, gentle smile. "Well," he said, "there's a diner about 20 miles east. Best coffee in the desert." I was about to head there myself. "Then let me drive you," I said. "It's the least I can do." He hesitated for a moment. Then he nodded. "All right," he said.
You drive.
"I'll ride." He got out of his truck, walked over to my car, and climbed into the passenger seat. I couldn't believe it. A few hours ago, I had been terrified of this man. Now I was inviting him into my car, into my space, into my life. But it didn't feel scary anymore. It felt right. We drove in silence for a few minutes. The desert was starting to darken, the sky turning from orange to purple to deep blue. The stars were beginning to appear, tiny pinpricks of light in the vast emptiness. "You know," Bill said, "the desert is a strange place. Most people see it as empty, lonely, but I see it as full of stories, full of history, full of people who passed through and left their mark." "What kind of stories?" I asked. He leaned back in his seat. "Well, this road right here, the one we're driving on, it used to be a wagon trail. Settlers came through here, heading west, looking for a new life. They were scared just like you.
Just like me.
But they kept going. Because they had hope. He paused. That's what this country is built on, you know.
Hope.
Not money. Not power.
Hope.
People who believed that things could be better. And who were willing to take a risk to make it happen. I thought about that. I had been so focused on my own fear, my own struggles, my own sense of not belonging. I hadn't thought about the bigger picture. The millions of people who had come before me, who had also been scared, who had also felt like outsiders, and who had kept going anyway. I never thought of it that way, I said. Most people don't, he said. But it's true. You're part of a long tradition, ma'am. A tradition of people who left everything behind to build something new. That takes courage. More courage than most people will ever understand. I felt a lump forming in my throat. I don't feel courageous, I said. I feel scared. All the time. That's what courage is, he said. Being scared and doing it anyway. We pulled up to the diner. It was a small, weathered building with a neon sign that flickered in the darkness. The parking lot was mostly empty. A few old trucks, a couple of sedans. It looked like the kind of place where locals went, not tourists. The kind of place where everyone knew your name. We went inside. The diner was warm and cozy, with red vinyl booths and a long counter lined with stools. A waitress with gray hair and a kind smile greeted Bill like an old friend. "Hey there, Bill," she said. "The usual?" "That'd be great, Marge," he said. "And whatever my friend here wants, put it on my tab." "No," I said quickly.
I'm paying.
"That's the deal." Bill laughed. All right. You can pay." We sat down in a booth by the window. The coffee arrived quickly, hot and strong and perfect. I wrapped my hands around the cup, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. "So," Bill said, "tell me more about yourself. Where are you from?" I hesitated. I had been so careful about sharing my story. So guarded. But something about Bill made me feel safe. Made me want to open up. "I'm from a small country far away," I said. "I came here to start a new life. To build something better for myself and my family." "And how's that going?" he asked. "Hard," I said. "Harder than I expected." He nodded. "It usually is. But it gets easier. Not because things change. Because you change. You get stronger. You get wiser. You learn to see the good even when it's hard to find." "How do you do that?" I asked. "How do you stay positive when everything feels so difficult?" He took a sip of his coffee. "I remember what I'm grateful for," he said. "I remember the people who helped me. And I remember that I have the power to help someone else. That's what keeps me going." I thought about that. I thought about all the times I had felt alone. All the times I had felt like I didn't belong. All the times I had wished someone would just show me a little kindness. And now here was Bill showing me exactly that. "I want to be like you," I said. "I want to help people. I want to pass it on." "You already are," he said. "What do you mean?" "By being here," he said. "By listening. By sharing your story. By letting me see you. That's helping, ma'am. That's more than you know." I didn't say anything. I just sat there, letting his words sink in. And for the first time in years, I felt something I had almost forgotten. I felt hope. Solid, real, unshakable hope. Not hope that things would get easier. Not hope that I would suddenly feel like I belonged. Hope that I was on the right path. Hope that I was not alone. Hope that there was goodness in the world, even when I couldn't see it. And I knew, in that moment, that I would never be the same. Because Bill had given me something that no amount of money could buy. He had given me his time, his attention, his kindness. And he had asked for nothing in return. That was the gift. That was the miracle. And it changed everything. In the next section, I'll tell you the rest of Bill's story. The story he shared with me over coffee in that small desert diner. The story of how a stranger had saved him, and how he had spent the rest of his life trying to be that stranger for someone else. The cowboy story, how a stranger's kindness became a lifelong mission. I asked Bill a question that night, a question that I had been carrying with me since he first appeared in the desert. Bill, I said, you told me that someone helped you once. A stranger. An old woman. Can you tell me what happened? He was quiet for a moment. He stared into his coffee cup, his fingers tracing the rim. And then he began to speak. I was in my 30s, he said.
Young.
Stupid. Full of myself. I had a wife, a beautiful woman named Sarah. We had been married for 5 years. We were happy, or at least I thought we were. He paused. But I didn't know how to be a good husband. I was too busy working, too busy chasing money, too busy trying to prove that I was a success. And I forgot to be present. I forgot to show up for her. He took a sip of his coffee. Then she got sick. Cancer. It came fast. Too fast. By the time we found it, it was too late. My heart sank. I'm so sorry, I whispered. He nodded. I was devastated. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to be there for her. I was so scared of losing her that I pulled away. I stopped talking. I stopped being vulnerable. I tried to be strong, but all I did was make her feel alone. He shook his head. She died alone, ma'am. Not physically. I was there. But emotionally, I had already checked out. And I've been living with that guilt ever since. I didn't know what to say. I just sat there, listening. After she died, I fell apart, he continued. I lost my job. I lost my house. I lost my way. I started drinking. Started driving. Just drove and drove, trying to outrun the pain. That's when you broke down in the desert. I asked. He nodded. I was driving through this very desert. No destination. No plan. Just driving. And my car broke down. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any hope. I was ready to give up. I was sitting there, staring at the dashboard, thinking about ending it all.
He paused.
And then this woman appeared. An old woman, maybe 70 years old. She was driving an old truck just like mine. She pulled over. She asked me what was wrong. And she fixed my car. Just like you fixed mine, I said.
Just like that, he said.
She didn't ask any questions. She didn't judge me. She just helped. When she was done, she sat down next to me, and she said something that I've never forgotten. What did she say? I asked. She said, Son, I don't know what brought you here, but I know that you're hurting. I can see it in your eyes. And I want you to know that it's okay to hurt. It's okay to be broken. It's okay to not have all the answers. But it's not okay to give up. Because there are people who need you. People you haven't met yet. People who are going to need your help one day. And if you give up now, you'll never get to help them. He looked at me. His eyes were bright with tears. That woman saved my life. Not by fixing my car. By giving me a reason to keep going. By reminding me that my story wasn't over. That there was still something I could do.
Someone I could be.
And that's why you help people, I said. That's why you fix cars for strangers. Yes, he said. Every time I help someone, I'm honoring her. I'm passing on what she gave me. I'm showing the world that kindness still exists. I reached across the table and touched his hand. Bill, I said, you are a good man. A truly good man. He smiled. I try, he said. That's all any of us can do.
Try.
We sat in silence for a while, the coffee cooling in our cups. The diner was quiet, the only sound the hum of the refrigerator and the faint crackle of a radio playing country music in the background. You know, I said, I came to America looking for a better life. I thought that meant money,
Success.
a house with a white picket fence. But I think I was wrong. What does it mean now? Bill asked. It means this, I said. It means connection. It means kindness. It means the moments when strangers become family. It means learning that I don't have to be perfect to belong. I just have to be human. Bill nodded. That's the lesson, he said. That's the lesson I've been learning my whole life. I paid the bill. We walked out into the cool desert night. The stars were out, scattered across the sky like tiny diamonds. We stood there for a moment, looking up at them. Thank you, Bill, I said, for everything. No need to thank me, he said. Just remember what I told you.
Pass it on.
I will, I said. I got in my car. I started the engine. And as I drove away, I looked in my rearview mirror. Bill was still standing there, watching me go. His silhouette against the starlit sky was a picture I would never forget. I drove all the way to Phoenix that night. I didn't stop. I didn't sleep. I just drove, replaying the conversation over and over in my head. And when I finally arrived, exhausted but full, I sat in my sister's driveway and I cried. Not from sadness, from gratitude, because I had been lost. And Bill had found me. He had found me in the desert, and he had brought me back. Back to hope. Back to trust. Back to the belief that there is goodness in the world. That is what the cowboy gave me. And that is what I want to give to you. In the next section, I'll tell you about the moment I finally understood the full impact of his kindness. The moment I realized that it wasn't just about me. It was about everyone. And it was about the power of one small act of kindness to change the world. Learning to trust. How a stranger became a teacher. That night in Phoenix, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my sister's guest room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the day. The broken car, the heat, the fear, the cowboy, the diner, the story. Bill had given me so much. More than he would ever know. Not just a fixed car. Not just a ride to a diner. A new way of seeing the world. A new way of seeing myself. I had spent so many years building walls. Protecting myself. Keeping people at a distance. I had told myself that it was safer that way. That trust was a weakness. That vulnerability was a mistake. But Bill had shown me something different. He had shown me that trust was not weakness. It was courage. It was the willingness to open your heart even when you are afraid. It was the belief that the good in people is stronger than the bad. And I wanted to learn how to do that. I wanted to learn how to trust again. The next morning, I woke up early. I made coffee. I sat on my sister's porch, watching the sun rise over the desert. And I thought about Bill. I thought about his hands, his voice,
His story.
I thought about the old woman who had saved him. I thought about how one act of kindness had rippled through time, touching me, a stranger, years later. And I made a decision. I was going to pass it on. Not because I had to, because I wanted to, because that is what kindness does. It spreads. It grows. It multiplies. And I wanted to be part of that. I spent the next few days in Phoenix, visiting my sister, playing with my nieces, and feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time.
Peace.
Not the peace of being safe. The peace of being open. The peace of knowing that I didn't have to be afraid anymore. I could trust. I could connect. I could belong. And it all started with a stranger in the desert. A cowboy who fixed my car and restored my faith. On the drive back to Los Angeles, I took a different route. I drove through small towns and empty roads. I stopped at diners and gas stations. I talked to strangers. I smiled. I listened. I shared my story. And every time I did, I felt a little more connected, a little more human, a little more like I belonged. I started to see the world differently. The people I had once been afraid of became people I wanted to know. The situations I had once avoided became opportunities. The fear that had once controlled me became a distant memory. It wasn't easy. Some days, the fear came back. Some days, I wanted to hide. But I didn't, because I had learned something from Bill. Fear is not the enemy. It is just a feeling, and feelings can be changed. You just have to be brave enough to try. A few months later, I found myself in a similar situation. I was driving through a small town in Texas when I saw a woman on the side of the road. Her car was broken down. She looked scared. She looked alone, just like I had been.
I pulled over.
I rolled down my window. You look like you could use some help, I said. She looked at me with the same fear I had felt, the same suspicion, the same hesitation, and I understood. I had been there. I knew what she was feeling. I'm not going to hurt you, I said. I'm just going to help you. She hesitated for a moment. Then she nodded. I got out of my car. I looked at her engine. I didn't know much about cars, but I knew enough to call for help. I called a tow truck. I waited with her until it arrived. I gave her some water. I told her a story. I told her about Bill. I told her about the cowboy who had fixed my car in the desert. I told her about the old woman who had saved him. I told her about the power of kindness. And when the tow truck arrived, she looked at me with tears in her eyes.
Thank you, she said.
I don't know what I would have done without you. You don't have to thank me, I said. Just pass it on. She smiled. She nodded. And she drove off. I stood there for a moment, watching her go. And I felt the same thing I had felt when Bill had helped me. Gratitude. Connection. Hope. I had passed it on. I had done what Bill had asked me to do. And it felt amazing. I realized in that moment that this was the real secret of life. Not money. Not success. Not power. Connection. The moments when we reach out to each other. The moments when we show up. The moments when we choose kindness over fear. That is what makes life meaningful. That is what makes us human. And that is what I want to share with you. Because if you are watching this video, I know something about you. I know you have been scared. I know you have felt alone. I know you have wondered if you belong. And I want to tell you that you do. You belong here. You belong in this country. You belong in this world. Not because you are perfect. Because you are real. Because you try. Because you show up. And because, like Bill, you have the power to make a difference. You have the power to pass it on. So here is my challenge to you. The next time you see someone who needs help, don't look away. Don't pretend you didn't see them. Don't tell yourself it's someone else's job. Stop. Help. Give them your time, your attention, your kindness. And don't ask for anything in return. That is how you build a better world. That is how you become part of something bigger than yourself. That is how you pass it on. In the next section, I will tell you about the crossroads. The moment when I had to decide whether to keep hiding or to finally step into the light. The moment when Bill's lesson became my own. And the moment when everything changed. The crossroads, the cowboy's words that changed my direction. The diner was quiet. The coffee was cooling in our cups. And Bill was looking at me with those calm blue eyes that seemed to see right through all my defenses. You know, he said, I've been thinking about something. What's that?
I asked.
You came to this country looking for a better life, he said. But I think you've been looking in the wrong places. I frowned. What do you mean? You've been looking for safety, he said. Security.
Certainty.
A place where you can hide from your fears. But that place doesn't exist. Not in America. Not anywhere. He leaned forward. The only place you can find what you're looking for is inside yourself. You have to stop running from your fear and start walking toward it. You have to stop hiding and start showing up. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. Because he was right. I had been running my whole life. Running from my fear. Running from my past. Running from the possibility of failure. Running from the chance of being hurt. And all that running had only made me more afraid. So what do? I asked. How do I stop running? Bill smiled.
You stop, he said.
Right here.
Right now.
You stop and you turn around. And you face whatever it is that scares you. That sounds terrifying, I said.
It is, he said.
That's the point. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to act in spite of it. And you, ma'am, are braver than you know. I thought about that. I thought about all the times I had been brave without realizing it. The day I got on the plane to America. The day I walked into my first English class. The day I started speaking even though my accent was thick and my grammar was shaky. The day I got into Bill's truck. I had been brave all along. I just hadn't given myself credit for it. I want to be more like you, I said. I want to help people. I want to make a difference. I want to be the person who shows up. You already are, he said. You showed up today. You stayed. You listened. You trusted. That's all anyone can do. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of his words settling into my heart. And then he said something that changed everything. You know, ma'am, he said, this country is full of people like you. People who came here with nothing but hope. People who are scared but keep going anyway. People who are looking for a place to belong. He paused. And the thing is, you already belong. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to prove it. You just have to accept it. Accept that you are part of this country.
Part of this story. Part of this family.
I felt tears forming again. But I don't feel like I belong, I said. I feel like an outsider. That's because you've been looking at yourself through the wrong lens, he said. You've been seeing your differences as weaknesses. But they're not weaknesses. They're strengths. Your accent is not a flaw. It's a reminder of where you came from. Your struggles are not failures. They are proof of how far you've come. Your fear is not a weakness. It's a sign that you care.
He paused.
You belong here, ma'am. Not because you're perfect. Because you're real. And real is what this country needs. I let his words wash over me. They felt like a balm to a wound I had been carrying for years. I had spent so long trying to prove that I was good enough. Trying to earn my place. Trying to deserve belonging. And Bill was telling me that I already had it. I just needed to accept it. Thank you, Bill, I said. For everything. For fixing my car. For sharing your story.
For seeing me.
He nodded. You're welcome, he said. Now, I think it's time for you to go. You've got a life to live.
A story to write.
And people to help. I paid the bill. We walked out into the cool desert night. The stars were out, scattered across the sky like tiny diamonds. We stood there for a moment, looking up at them. Do you believe in signs? I asked. I believe in moments, he said. Moments that change you. Moments that show you who you are. And this was one of those moments. Yes, I said. It was. I got in my car. I started the engine. And as I drove away, I looked in my rearview mirror. Bill was still standing there, watching me go. His silhouette against the starlit sky was a picture I would never forget. I drove all the way to Phoenix that night. I didn't stop. I didn't sleep. I just drove, replaying the conversation over and over in my head. And when I finally arrived, exhausted but full, I sat in my sister's driveway and I cried. Not from sadness. From gratitude. Because I had been lost. And Bill had found me. He had found me in the desert, and he had brought me back. Back to hope. Back to trust. Back to the belief that there is goodness in the world. That is what the cowboy gave me. And that is what I want to give to you. Because if you are watching this video, I know something about you. I know you have been scared. I know you have felt alone. I know you have wondered if you belong. And I want to tell you that you do. You belong here. You belong in this country. You belong in this world. Not because you are perfect. Because you are real. Because you try. Because you show up. And because, like Bill, you have the power to make a difference. You have the power to pass it on. In the next section, I'll tell you about the moment I finally understood what Bill had really done for me. The moment when I realized that he hadn't just fixed my car. He had fixed my future. Restored faith, the cowboy's words that came true. The weeks after my encounter with Bill were different. I noticed it in small ways. The way I smiled at strangers. The way I held the door for people. The way I said hello to my neighbors, even when I was tired. Something had shifted inside me. Something had loosened. The fear that had been my constant companion was still there, but it was quieter now. Less demanding, like a background noise that had been turned down. And in its place, something new was growing.
Trust.
Not the naive trust of a child who believes no one will hurt them. The earned trust of someone who had been hurt and had chosen to heal anyway. The conscious trust of someone who had seen the darkness and still believed in the light. I started to see Bill's face everywhere. Not literally, of course, but I saw his spirit in the people I met. The cashier who smiled at me. The neighbor who waved. The stranger who offered to carry my groceries. I started to notice the kindness that had always been there, hidden beneath my fear. And I realized that I had been blind. Not because the world was cold, because I had been too scared to look. I thought about what Bill had said. You just have to be brave enough to see it. That was the key. Not to create kindness.
To see it.
To notice it. To let it in. And once I started seeing it, I couldn't unsee it. It was everywhere. In the smallest gestures. The most ordinary moments. The quiet acts of generosity that happened every day, unnoticed and uncelebrated. I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be someone who created those moments. Someone who made the world a little brighter. Someone who passed it on. I started small. I smiled at strangers. I held doors. I said thank you with meaning. I tipped generously. I gave compliments. I listened. And I noticed something. When I gave kindness, I received it back. Not always from the same person. Sometimes from someone else entirely. But it came back like a boomerang. It was as if the universe was rewarding me for my courage. Not in material ways. In emotional ways. In ways that filled my heart and made me feel like I belonged. One day, I was at a coffee shop. I was waiting in line, tired and distracted. The woman in front of me was struggling with her wallet. She was old, maybe in her 80s, and her hands were shaking. She couldn't find her money. The barista was getting impatient. The line was growing longer. And I stepped forward. I'll pay for her, I said. The woman looked at me, surprised. Oh no, she said. I couldn't let you do that. Please, I said. I want to. And I paid. Her coffee was only $3. It was nothing. But the look on her face was everything. She smiled. She took my hands. Thank you, dear, she said. You've made my day. I smiled back. Pass it on, I said.
She didn't know what I meant.
But I did.
I was passing it on.
Bill's gift. The old woman's gift. The gift that had traveled through time and space to reach me. And now I was passing it on to her. That moment, small and ordinary, felt huge. It felt like a victory. A victory over fear. A victory over selfishness. A victory over the belief that I was alone. I wasn't alone. I was part of something bigger. A chain of kindness that stretched back through generations. And I was just one link in that chain. But every link mattered. Every link made the chain stronger. I thought about Bill. I thought about the old woman who had saved him. I thought about all the people who had helped me along the way. The teachers, the neighbors, the strangers. The people who had shown me kindness when I least expected it. And I realized that I was part of something beautiful. A tradition of caring. A network of love. A community of people who chose connection over fear. And I wanted to be worthy of that. I wanted to be someone who gave as much as she received. Someone who made the world a little better. Someone who passed it on. The months passed. I continued to practice kindness. I continued to open my heart. I continued to trust. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, I changed. I became more confident, more open, more connected. The fear that had once controlled me became a distant memory. I started to feel like I belonged. Not because I had earned it, because I had accepted it, because I had let the kindness in, and because I had started to give it back. Bill had taught me that belonging is not something you earn. It is something you receive, something you accept, something you share. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop worrying about being perfect. You stop worrying about being judged. You start living. You start connecting. You start belonging. And you start to see the world as it really is. Full of kindness. Full of hope. Full of people who are just waiting for someone to show them that they matter. In the next section, I will tell you about the ripple effect. The way Bill's kindness spread from me to others. The way it grew and multiplied, touching lives I would never meet. And the way it taught me that one small act of kindness can change the world. The ripple effect, how one kindness spread like wildfire. You know what happened after that day at the coffee shop? Nothing dramatic. Nothing movie-worthy. Just a quiet, steady accumulation of small moments. Each one a tiny ripple in the pond of my life. Each one a reminder that Bill's lesson was still alive in me. I started to notice the ripple effect everywhere. The woman I had bought coffee for, I saw her a few weeks later at the same coffee shop. She was buying coffee for a young man who looked tired and lost. She was passing it on. I smiled. I didn't interrupt. I just watched, my heart full. Then there was the man I helped change a tire on the side of the freeway. He was a truck driver from Texas. He had been driving for 12 hours. He was exhausted and frustrated.
I pulled over.
I didn't know how to change a tire, but I knew how to call for help. I stayed with him until the tow truck arrived. I gave him some water. I told him about Bill. He listened. He nodded. And when the tow truck came, he looked at me and said, "I'm going to pass this on. I promise." A week later, I got a letter. It was from a woman I had never met. She had found my address through a mutual friend. She wrote, "My husband was the man you helped on the freeway.
He told me about you. He told me about Bill.
He told me about the cowboy who fixed your car. And he said that your kindness changed him. He's been helping strangers ever since. He helped an old lady carry her groceries. He helped a young couple jumpstart their car. He helped a teenager change a flat tire. He's been passing it on. And I wanted to thank you, because you started it." I cried when I read that letter. Not from sadness.
From joy.
Because I had been part of something bigger than myself. I had been a link in a chain. A tiny link, but a link that mattered. The ripple effect was real. It was happening, and I was part of it. I started to think about all the people Bill must have helped over the years. All the strangers he had stopped for. All the cars he had fixed. All the hearts he had healed. And I realized that his kindness had touched hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. And each of those lives had touched others. And those others had touched more. It was like a stone dropped into a pond. The ripples spread outward, touching everything in their path. Bill was a stone, and I was a ripple, and so were all the people he had helped, and all the people they had helped, and on forever. I thought about the old woman who had saved Bill. She was a stone too. A stone that had started a chain reaction that had reached me decades later, in a desert in Arizona. She had no idea what she had set in motion. She probably never knew. But her kindness had changed the world. Not in a grand, dramatic way. In a quiet, ordinary way. In the way that kindness does. One small act at a time. I wanted to be like her. I wanted to be like Bill. I wanted to be a stone. A stone that started a chain reaction. A stone that created ripples. A stone that changed the world. I started to look for opportunities. Not grand opportunities. Small ones. Everyday ones. The kind of opportunities that are easy to miss. The kind that don't seem like much at the time but that add up. I held doors for people. I gave compliments. I listened. I helped. I showed up. And I noticed that something was happening. Not just to the people I helped.
To me.
I was changing. The more kindness I gave, the more kindness I felt. The more I opened my heart, the more love I received. The more I trusted, the more I was trusted. It was like a positive feedback loop. A cycle of goodness that fed on itself. And it all started with Bill. A stranger in the desert. A cowboy who fixed my car and restored my faith. I thought about what he had said. The only thing they asked in return was that I pass it on. I was passing it on. Not perfectly. Not all the time. But I was trying. And that was enough. Because kindness doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. It just has to be real. It just has to be given. It just has to be passed on. I think about Bill often. I don't know if he's still alive. I don't know if he ever knew how much his kindness affected me. But I like to think that somewhere out there in the desert, a cowboy is sitting on his porch, watching the sunset and smiling. Because he knows. He knows that his kindness mattered. He knows that he made a difference. He knows that he passed it on. And I hope that he knows how grateful I am. Grateful for his hands. Grateful for his time. Grateful for his story. Grateful for the lesson he taught me. The lesson that changed everything. The lesson that I am passing on to you. You are not alone. You are not invisible. You are not powerless. You have the power to change someone's life. Maybe not in a big way. Maybe not in a way that makes headlines. But in a way that matters. In a way that creates ripples. In a way that passes it on. So here is my challenge to you. Find your Bill. Or be someone else's Bill. Be the stranger who helps. Be the kindness that heals. Be the stone that starts the ripple. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. It just has to be given. It just has to be passed on. In the final section, I'm going to bring this story to a close. I'm going to tell you about the stranger, the cowboy, and the miracle. And I'm going to ask you the question that I hope will stay with you long after this video ends. Because the answer to that question might change everything. Stranger, cowboy, miracle, the kindness that changed everything. I never saw Bill again. I drove back to his house a few months later, hoping to thank him properly, to tell him how much his kindness had meant. But the house was empty. The porch was bare. The truck was gone. A neighbor told me that Bill had moved away, gone to live with his daughter in another state. I never got to say goodbye, but I didn't need to, because Bill had given me something that didn't require a goodbye. He had given me a lesson that I would carry with me for the rest of my life. A lesson about kindness, about trust. about the power of a single act of generosity to change everything. I think about him often, not with sadness, with gratitude, with the deep, quiet gratitude of someone who has been saved, not from a broken car, from a broken heart, from a broken spirit, from the belief that I was alone. Bill showed me that I wasn't alone. He showed me that there is goodness in the world. He showed me that strangers can become friends, that kindness is a universal language, that trust is not weakness, it is courage, and that the only way to truly belong is to open your heart and let people in.
I have passed his lesson on.
I have helped strangers. I have listened to stories. I have given what I could, when I could, to whoever needed it. And every time I do, I feel Bill's presence. I feel his hands on the engine. I feel his voice in my ear. I feel his kindness flowing through me, reaching out to touch someone else. That is the miracle, not the car, not the desert, not the cowboy. The miracle is the chain of kindness that connects us all. The chain that stretches across time and space, linking strangers who will never meet. The chain that Bill started and that I am now part of, and that you can be part of too. I want to tell you something, and I want you to hear it. Not with your ears, with your heart. You are not alone. You are not invisible. You are not powerless. You have the power to change someone's life. Maybe not in a big way. Maybe not in a way that makes headlines. But in a way that matters. In a way that creates ripples. In a way that passes it on. You don't have to be a cowboy. You don't have to fix cars. You don't have to do anything dramatic. You just have to be present. You just have to be willing to help. You just have to be brave enough to trust. And you have to be willing to pass it on. That is what Bill taught me. That is what I want to teach you. There is a quote that I love. I don't know who said it, but it captures everything I have been trying to say. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. That is the lesson. That is the miracle. That is the gift. And it is yours for the taking. The cowboy fixed my car. But more than that, he fixed my heart. He restored my faith. He showed me that there is still goodness in the world. And he taught me that I could be part of that goodness. I could be someone who helps, someone who trusts, someone who passes it on. That is the real story. Not the broken car, not the desert, not the cowboy. The story of a woman who learned that kindness is the most powerful force in the world, and that she could be part of it. And so can you. So, here is my final question for you. The question that I have been asking myself ever since that day in the desert. The question that I hope will stay with you long after this video ends. Who is your cowboy? Who is the stranger who showed you that kindness still exists? Who is the person who restored your faith when you had lost it? And more importantly, who are you going to be for someone else? Who are you going to help? Who are you going to trust? Who are you going to pass it on to? Because that is what matters. That is what changes the world. One act of kindness at a time. One stranger at a time. One miracle at a time. Bill was my miracle. He was the stranger who appeared out of nowhere and saved me. Not just from a broken car. From a broken spirit. From the belief that I was alone. And now, I am passing that miracle on to you. Not because I am special. Because I am human. And that is what humans do. We help each other. We trust each other. We pass it on. So go. Help someone.
Trust someone. Pass it on.
And remember, kindness is not a weakness. It is a superpower. And you have it. Use it. Change the world. One small act at a time. One stranger at a time. One miracle at a time. Just like Bill. Just like the old woman who saved him. Just like me. And just like you. You just watched a woman break down in the desert and get saved by a stranger who asked for nothing in return. That cowboy didn't just fix my car. He fixed my heart. He reminded me that kindness is a universal language. And he taught me that trust is not weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do. But here's the part one didn't tell you. That cowboy wasn't the only stranger who changed my life. There was another one. Someone who appeared when I least expected it and showed me that the ripple effect of kindness is even bigger than I imagined. In my next video, I'm going to share that story with you. The one about the stranger who helped me when I had given up on myself. You won't want to miss it. So here's your call to action. Subscribe now, because the best stories are the ones where kindness changes everything. Comment one word, Cowboy, if you believe in the power of strangers. Like this video if you've ever been saved by unexpected kindness. This channel is not about perfection. It's about real people, real moments, and the kindness that connects us all, one stranger at a time. Your kindness matters. Pass it on. See you in the next video.